Welcome back, mathematicians. This lesson is on writing linear equations, mostly in slope-intercept form. Although, of course, there are different forms of linear equations that we just won't get into in 7th grade math. The first question, an equation of a line is given. State the slope and y-intercept of the line. So even though it looks like right away we could say that the slope is 2 and the y-intercept is -6, remember that in order to pick out those numbers, the equation has to be in slope-intercept form. And slope-intercept form is y equals, and then m as your slope, times x plus b as your y-intercept. And this equation here is not in that form. Right now it's like y plus 2x minus 6 equals 0. So what I like to do is kind of draw a line where I'm going to show my work, and then to remind myself what I'm looking for at the end, I will write down y equals mx plus b, just to see if it's, in that form. So what don't I have? Well, I don't have y by itself. That one's obvious. And then I don't have an mx plus b over here. I just have it equaling 0. So I want to start moving things over. Usually, we'll move the constants over. So I'm going to add 6 to both sides. I'm just going to show all my steps in red. Those cancel. I have y plus 2x equals 0 plus 6 is 6. Now it still doesn't look like y equals mx plus b, because this x is still on the left side, so I've got to move it over. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. And now those cancel, and I have y equals 6 minus 2x. And this is kind of tricky because even though it looks like it's in slope-intercept form, it's not quite. It is a form of linear equation, but with slope-intercept form, we want it to be the term with x. We want that to be first. So I have to flip these around. And when I flip them around, I want to make sure that I take the sign with it. So this turns into y equals, and then my slope is -2 x plus my y-intercept is 6. So to answer that question, I would say that my slope equals -2, and my y-intercept equals 6. And as a side note here, don't include x. So that would be like saying the slope is -2x. Right? We don't want you to do that. The slope is just the number that's with x. It's not including the x. And that's it for the first example. For our next example, we're asked to write the equation of a line in slope-intercept form, given its slope and given the y-intercept. So we're given the fact that m is 1/4 and b is 3. And just a reminder, I know I already wrote this up here, but y equals, and I'm going to write it a little bit differently. Slope is usually written as a fraction. So mx plus b. And in this fraction, usually this stands for the rise, and this stands for the run. And not usually, it always stands for the rise and the run. In this case, we have a fraction. So sometimes I like to draw the boxes in. So instead of making this a B, I can make it a blue box. And what happens is it's just kind of like a fill in the blank. So my slope is 1/4. That means 1 and 4. And then my y-intercept is 3. So I put a 3 here. And then if I write that without the boxes, I just get y equals 1/4 x plus 3. And that would be my answer for that one. Continuing on to the next example, we have to write an equation of a line given its y-intercept and the equation of a line parallel to the line. So parallel equations or parallel lines have the same slope. Okay, so that's kind of a definition that I want you to put in your book. So parallel equals same slope. And if you think about this, and again, you don't have to write this down, but let's think of like a little graph here. I'm just going to zoom in and make a little graph. So you have line red. And then I have line blue. And they're relatively parallel. Let's pretend they're parallel. If I count the rise, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, let's say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Pretend that's 6 over 6. As this goes up 6, this is also going to be going up 6. As this goes to the right 6, this goes to the right 6. So they're both moving and they're never going to touch. So imagine you're trying to chase somebody, right? And as you take a step, they take a step. And then they take another step and you take another step, right? And your steps are equal length apart. You're never going to catch up with that person. So that's how I like to think of parallel lines having the same slope, right? As one moves up into the right or down into the right, down to the left, right? As one line moves as you're counting that slope, the other line moves the same way. So they're never going to touch. And of course, that's a geometry definition that parallel lines never touch. So let's go towards the steps of writing an equation when we're given one equation and asked to find the line that's parallel to it. So the first step we want to do is to put our equation, or put the given equation, in slope-intercept form. Let me change this a little bit. To find m. So we're given the equation 2y equals 6 minus 3x. So it's not in slope-intercept form yet, right? In order for it to be in slope-intercept form, I want it to be y equals mx plus b. So my step is, first I'm going to get the y by itself. So I divide by 2. And I want to divide everything by 2. But in order to keep it in slope-intercept form, I don't want to make one big fraction bar and say I'm done, because then there's no big fraction bar in slope-intercept form. Right, so I don't want to do that. What I do is I divide each one individually by 2. These cancel, and you have y equals, so that's a good start. 6 divided by 2 is 3. Negative 3 over 2, as we'll say, it's just negative 3 over 2, and then x. And again, it's not in slope-intercept form, so we have to switch it. So my final equation is y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 3. And if you're wondering where I get these signs from, right, this negative 3 here, negative 3 over 2, that means that this is going to stay negative 3 over 2. Okay, same thing with this. This is positive 3. This is going to stay positive 3. And then I want to identify my slope. So that means that m is equal to negative 3 over 2. Okay, so step 1 is kind of a longer process, but it makes step 2 really easy, because all you have to do for step 2 is similar to the first example. Fill in the new equation with the slope and y-intercept. So we've got the slope, we've got the y-intercept. So if we were filling in the blank, we'd say that y equals, and then m is from over here, negative 3/2, so negative 3 over 2. X. And they give me the y-intercept right here. This is a line that has a y-intercept of 6. So then we would say plus 6. And so this would be our final answer. For this next example, we're asked to write an equation of a line given its slope and a point on the line. There are a couple different ways to do this one. I'm going to show you the algebraic way. In 8th grade, they might show you a different way to do it. Algebraic way is a lot less writing. So we're going to go with that because I think less work is easier. And if you understand the concept of an equation of a line, then this should be quite easy for you. So it says we're asked to write an equation of a line that has a slope of -5 and it passes through the point 1, -8. I'm going to say write an equation of the line. So what are the two things needed for an equation of the line in slope-intercept form? Right? This one should be pretty easy. You have to know the slope, and you have to know the y-intercept. Now, let's see, what are we given here in our problem? Well, we're given that the slope is -5. So right away we can say m equals -5. But we're not given anything else, right? So at this point, we would just have y equals -5x plus b. We don't know what b is. So how we find it is we'll do step 1. Fill in our known information. So what do we know? Because in order to solve for a variable such as b, right, because we need the y-intercept, we need to figure out what x and y are. So right now b equals question mark. And normally when we write in slope-intercept form, we don't fill in for x and y. But this time we are, because we're given an x and we're given a y, and we're given both of those things. in our problem. Right, so x is going to be 1 and y is going to be -8 because this is an xy coordinate. Right, so this point must lie on the line that I'm about to draw. So let's fill in our information. We've got -8 for y equals -5 times our x value is 1 plus b, which is my y-intercept. And I keep solving down for b. -8 equals -5 times 1 is -5 plus b. I'll put that in blue. Now I'm going to add 5 to both sides. Those cancel. -8 plus 5 is -3 equals b. So I know that b is -3, which means that my equation of the line that passes through that point with that slope is going to be y equals, and we're going to use the m, so -5 x plus, and then b, so -3. And I want that slope-intercept form, so I want to get rid of the plus and negative, so it's just -5x minus 3. What information? These are some problems that you're going to be doing on your own. So for the first 4, you're just putting those in slope-intercept form. So remember that's y equals mx plus b. So you're getting the y by itself. And then the second one is very similar to the one that we just did on the previous page. Just a different slope and a different line, but same process. Our second to last example is write an equation of a line that passes through the pair of points 1, 3, and 2, -4. So I know that the two things I need to write an equation in slope-intercept form, right, is the slope and the y-intercept. In this case, I'm not given either, so I have to find at least one of them. Now, when I'm given 2 points, I can try and see if the y-intercept's there. Remember, the y-intercept occurs when x is 0. Right, so do either of these points have the x value as 0? No, no, right? So I can't do that. So that means I have to find the slope. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our previous lesson when we found the slope, and I'm going to use the slope formula, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Let me zoom in. And all I'm doing is I'm going to take those points that I have and I'm going to label them x1, y1, x2, y2. And what that means is it's my first x and y pair and then my second x and y pair. And let's fill in the blank. y2 minus y1 would be -4 minus 3. And that's going to be over 2 minus 1. And you don't have to put things in parentheses. I do it because it makes it easier to see if I'm subtracting a negative. So what's -4 minus 3? That would be -7. 2 minus 1 is 1, which means that my slope is equal to -7. So here's the information I have so far. Y equals -7 x plus b. And so now it's kind of like the previous example we had where we were given a slope right? We were given a slope of, in this case, -7, and we had to find our y-intercept. So we're going to pick either point, okay? Either point to find b. So there are two steps, really, in this one. First step is to find the slope. The second step is to put in either point. So either the first x and y or the second x and y into the slope-intercept form to find b. So I'm going to use the point 1, 3 because it's easier. If I look at the second point, I've got a negative number. Whenever you have negative numbers, it's easier to make a mistake. So find whichever point is easiest. It won't matter which one you use though, because the slope is going to be the same between the 2 points. So it won't matter if you use this first x and y or the second x and y, you just can't mix them up. So you can't do like 1 and -4. So let's fill in what we have. We have 3 equals -7 times 1 plus b. And I keep going. 3 equals -7 plus b. Add 7 to both sides. Those cancel. And I have b is equal to 10. So the equation on my line is y equals -7x plus 10. And my final example is we're asked to graph a line with a slope of 4 that passes through the point 3, 2. And we're told to use 1 grid square on both axes to represent 1 unit for the interval from 0 to 6. So that just means that for all of these axes, we're going from 0 to 6. So I'm going to put in my graph paper a line relatively down the middle. That's my y. Here's my x. And usually we have arrows to show that these never stop. Okay. It says to go from 0 to 6, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we want to do our negatives. Make sure that you're putting the number right on the line. All right. So there are 2 steps in this one. Step 1 is plot the point. To plot the given point. And we're given the point 3, 2. So that's 3 on x, 2 on y. So right there. And then we are going to use our slope which is rise over run, to find a new point. So in here, we're given the slope of 4. So our slope, which equals rise over run, is equal to 4. And as a fraction, that's 4 over 1. So that means that we're going to be going up 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and over 1. So there's my new point. Now, if I wanted to go the other way, I could also do -4, -1. That just means I'm doing it backwards twice. So down 4 over 1. And you'll notice that either way, they're going to be on the same line. And there you go. And we're not asked to give an equation of the line. We're just asked to draw the line. If you were asked to give an equation of the line, what you'd want to do is keep using your slope and keep going down 1, 2, 3, 4 over 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you go off the page to find your y-intercept. But we're not asked to do that, so we don't have to. We're just asked to draw the graph, which we did. So after you're finished with this and you've gone back to your ongoing problems and those have been checked by your teacher, they're all set to go to the practice problems.